credits. I admit it took way longer to get here than I was expecting. But here we are. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth conquered. Oh, this was quite the game. Oh man. Um just to talk about the ending here. Um there was there was like this scene, this moment where Cloud actually deflected Sephiroth's sword as he was trying to kill Aerith, and it seemed to work. And I was like, "Oh, it actually changed." But then like something weird happened, and it I don't know if we went to a different dimension, or a different world or what have you. But then Aerith was dead, and it was kind of weird the way they did that. Um, but yeah. Anyways, my overall thoughts for this game. I had a pretty good time with this. Um, I thought they did a really good job again with like expanding on characters and just making things more interesting. Um, like the locations were uh I guess I'll say expanded upon as well. Just like pretty much everything was expanded upon in a really good way. And I enjoyed those aspects of it. Like the gameplay of this shines far and above over effectively anything else. It's just they did a really good job crafting the gameplay and how it works and how it flows together. Um, where it falls apart is the story, and it's definitely kind of tough to figure out if the story is like, is it because of Final Fantasy VII, or is it because of how they wanted to expand on things? But um, I I feel like we don't do anything in this game, and we'll expand on that as well, I suppose. For a new section I have that I want to start doing is see how my first impressions, scale up with the rest of it. So, for my initial thoughts based on day one ish, combat is quick and fantastical. Characters are doing moves and combos that just look super cool. Had a great time with that. The button presses to utilize certain attacks, such as holding the square button or hitting square button to dodge, or holding the square button after a dodge, are very much information overload. It's a lot to process in combat, and I imagine I will make a lot of mistakes because of it. I did. My God, a lot of people. The open world is very unexpected for me. I wasn't expecting what was given, and I like what I see. Regrettably, a lot of my early exploration in the grasslands was effectively wasted because all the locations are tied to side quests and objects that need to be unlocked in the main story. I wish they unlocked that earlier before you had the opportunity to explore. Alternatively, being able to complete side quests objectives prior to unlocking the quest would have worked for me as well. Items in the customization are crazy. There's crafting, material links, weapon skills, skill trees, synergy attacks, and skills, spells, and whatever else I'm missing. There's systems in systems. Crazy. And there was something about button presses that bothered me, but I couldn't remember that for the life of me. Um, all right, more credits. Should have probably marked for credits. So for the story, was it satisfying? I'm gonna say no on this one. Uh, it's it's certainly nice to see what they gave us, but it's not enough for me. Um, I I think the problem in of itself is that nothing really happens in the narrative. And I needed things to happen in the narrative. It can't just all be character development for me, you know? Like we got to start somewhere and then we got to go somewhere and there's got to be important things happening in between. And I think we start somewhere and I think we end somewhere, but there aren't those important middle moments. Did it feel complete? Well, you know, it in a way, yes, but you know, because of the nature of the game, it doesn't be, you know, for I guess obvious reasons. How was the pacing? I think the pacing is kind of awful, if we're being honest here. And it goes into like the story just doesn't go anywhere ever. Um, you know, like my thoughts on the story, while this may have been faithful to the original game, I certainly struggle with the narrative development of the game. We're tracking down Sephiroth through the robed men, but after finishing Gungaga, the fourth location of the game, we've made effectively zero progress on that goal and slightly more progress on expanding that story. We're not much closer to understanding his goals, reasonings, or coming to an understanding of why things are happening. Instead, we keep getting roped into silly scenarios like leading a marching band, going on vacation in Costa del Sol, being forced to ride a chocobo race, among many others. All of it feels like a journey, but these key moments in the main story don't push the narrative forward, they just get in the way. This was definitely the biggest problem I had with it. Um, I just I wanted a standard narrative, and instead I got, you know, whatever it is this was supposed to give us. The volume here. Um, yeah, I wish, like, I don't necessarily wish that Sephiroth was more um prevalent, but I wish there was more to the game than just following the robed guys and just doing silly things along the way. Uh, it 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 was certainly an interesting journey. It just wasn't a story that I could stand behind. Zach's storyline feels like it isn't doing enough. The mystique and intrigue wore off quickly when his sections are less than 5 minutes long and barely advance any sort of plot, if at all. This was this was something that was very disappointing to me. Um, I understand that, you know, they have a whole nother game that they want to do, but I like when you introduce that Zach is alive, it's like, okay, something is gonna go down. We're gonna learn something about why Zach's alive and how this is working, and maybe he's gonna come back. And none of that just really happens. We're just chilling as Zach, you know, doing these small little things. And it's just not enough for me. It's not nearly enough for me. All of his sections just felt like pointless, basically. Um, and then, like, his little conclusion there, you know, Zach could have not been in this game and nothing would have changed for me. Uh, that it was just incredibly disappointing from my end on that. For gameplay mechanics and design, what gameplay elements stand out? When dialogue is being spoken by party members or quest NPCs, the chatter of surrounding NPCs needs to be muffled, muted, or decreased in volume. I had a big problem with this, you know, like, sure, we have subtitles and things like that, but no reason that we needed to have all the stuff that we saw or heard. Um, There's more important dialogue to be listening to. The spatial audio is super annoying depending on where the characters are and where your camera is pointing. You could have a harder time hearing dialogue, and it shouldn't be like that. I talked about that in the game, and self-explanatory. The side quests are fine, and I do like that they incorporate other party members. Uh, Makes them a little more personal. This was something that I actually enjoyed quite a bit. Like, while the side quests themselves weren't all that special, it was really cool to have various party members be invested in those particular quests and like see how they're going to react and what they're going to do for that quest and stuff like that. I enjoyed that. Party level is somewhat of a strange addition. It feels like its only purpose is to level up folios, and I wish more was attached to it. Characters' levels unsync as the game progresses, and having a pooled experience system would have been preferable. So yeah, the party level, like, it was cool, uh, but I guess that allure kind of wears off. And I guess most of that allure was, hey, it's not the party level of another game that I've played. But um, I party level just felt like an underutilized system, I suppose, and I wish it was utilized more. Um, the vast majority of the mini games are at the very least tolerable. In fact, I find a fair amount of them to be fun. Yeah, I did a lot of mini games, and I can't think of them all, but I feel like I liked more than I disliked. That said, requiring minigames to progress the main story is something to consider for cardinal sins, because uh, it's it's a little ridiculous. Now, thankfully, um, there were some instances where you could like skip the mini games. Like you could skip Queen's Blood and stuff like that, and that was cool. So I appreciate that. It's just take the mini games out of the main story altogether. World map objectives have some variety to them, which is nice, but I do wish they were more unique from zone to zone. The open world luster wears off after the grasslands, since the only unique things that are being done are the proto relics. So yeah, there's like the towers, there's the combat objectives, there's the springs, there's the excavation sites, um, the summon shrines or whatever. And like all of that is consistent for every single zone. And it would have been nice if some of those weren't so consistent. Maybe we, instead of summon shrines, maybe they were like something else, or instead of little springs, maybe those were something else. Um, just to add a little bit more variety and spice. I really appreciate the fast travel options, but I especially appreciate how many places can be fast traveled to. So, this was really cool by the game because not only can you fast travel to like towns and stuff like that, but you can fast travel to objectives that you've already visited and completed, such as towers or springs or like these little vista locations and things like that. It was just a really cool thing to speed up travel, and I appreciate it so much. It's worth saying again that the Queen's Blood storyline conclusion was very underwhelming. Um, I, I can't say that I was expecting a lot or that I was expecting much, but holy cow, what we got for the Queen's Blood conclusion was probably one of the most, if not the most disappointing thing in this game. And it was just a side quests type deal, just like a little mini game. But, like when you put a story in there, I sure hope you're going to do something uh, worth experiencing. when it comes to the story, and this game did not do that in the slightest for me. Um, the weapon system is awesome. I love that each weapon is different between stats, materia slots, weapon abilities, and weapon level upgrades. The way they do weapons in this game, I think I mentioned this in Final Fantasy VII Remake as well, but the weapon system in this game is amazing. How they do materia is absolutely amazing. It's probably the best part of the combat customization, and it it just it adds so much coolness to it. I love it a lot. The split party adventures I could largely do without. In particular, the Kate Sith one was a negative amount of fun. The controls for throwing the boxes was overly complicated, and his movement speed on the Moogle was unnecessarily slow. Yeah, like it felt like every character had their own little quasi solo moment where we had to control them to get through kind of like a puzzle esque mini game section of the game, and those for the most part just they didn't feel like they were making me enjoy those characters or the game more. Um, there are some like Kate Siths where like they detracted from the game a lot. For combat, it's fast paced and super fun, and synergy abilities are very cool and varied. Lots of customization potential. It took me a while to figure out how synergy abilities work, but when you have like hover over an ability, I might have been covering the text, so you might not have seen it, but like some abilities have like a little like rectangle thing, like a plus and a rectangle, and those add those rectangles to the synergy thing so that you can use synergy abilities. And it took me forever to figure that out, but when I figured it out, I was understanding things a little bit better. Unfortunately, the combat was a little too hectic for me to be swapping characters to get that to where I wanted it to go, but ultimately it wasn't necessary anyways. Um, but I do want to, I guess, slightly expand that. Um, while I'm not necessarily going to be speaking on the combat any more than I already have, it was by far the most enjoyable thing in this game, um, alongside like the general gameplay of things. Um, I I I just love how quick and punchy it is, and there's even options for me to even like speed it up by having shortcuts for all the abilities that I like using and whatnot instead of just pausing, quasi pausing in the battle. So combat was amazing. Nothing for dungeons. For cardinal sins, removing a key party member without sufficient replacements. Uh, Party members just leave and come back whenever they feel like it. Forcing the player to use certain party members. This was particularly annoying with the final boss. Thankfully, I equipped everybody with healing spells and like auto casting and stuff like that, so it wasn't nearly as much of a struggle as it could have been. Main story missions are side quests. We were entering a Queen's Blood tournament. We were doing chocobo races. Uh, you know, all kinds of side quest activities and whatnot. There's escort missions. Oh, I hate those escort missions. For miscellaneous sound and music, I found the soundtrack to be great. I love the callbacks to the original game as well as its willingness to be different for certain tracks. Doesn't always hit the mark, but it's largely good enough to still be enjoyable. Yeah, like I'm a big fan of the original Final Fantasy VII's soundtrack. And so for a game to do remixes and things like that for that soundtrack, you gotta you gotta hit the mark at all times. And this game doesn't hit the mark at all times. But a great many of them are still super enjoyable, and this is another soundtrack where like I want to listen to the thing outside of the game and hear it for what it is, and then after that compare and contrast um how different the sounds are between each iteration of the game. I think that would be super cool and a fun thing to do. For voice acting, I thought there was great voice acting. I do wish there were I do wish the dialogue options were voice acted by their respective characters. Cloud in particular says so little, and it feels like he could have those lines. So yeah, like there are when there's like a wheel, and most of the time you're timed on what you need to do it. But sometimes when you're talking like NPCs for side quests and stuff like that, they're not timed. But those options, like 99% of the time, they're not voice acted, and I wish they were. For graphics, performance mode presented some minor things, which is understandable. The larger issue is the lighting system. When in a dark area, looking out into sunny areas, it's just blinding white. There's a clip that Manadry had made where it was like very beginning of the game when we were in flashback Nibble, and I was like rotating the camera back and forth, and how it would get like super dark and then it would get super light in the area, and it's stuff like that that I wish didn't exist. But maybe if I exit performance mode, um it would improve that. Who knows. Cinematics in this are so good. I also agree with that. The cutscenes are really well done. The cinematics look really nice. Um, Even like the mid-fight little sequences where it takes a break and pauses the fight while characters are talking and doing stuff, like those are also really well done. The animations in this game are absolutely fantastic. Just super super good. For other, um, is it? Let's see. If it's a sequel, does it achieve more of the same? And I would say yes. From what I can remember from Final Fantasy VII Remake, this is more of the same. Is the game worth recommending? Absolutely. Super, 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 super fun. Let's see. And if the developer is watching, so I definitely know that this game is, it's remaking Final Fantasy VII. And so you're trying to stick to the narrative, and you're also adding some new stuff. I think where this game goes wrong for me personally is that it doesn't lean heavily enough into the new things. It teases the new things, and it being the second game in the entry of a supposed three, I feel like this game needed to solidify what changes are going to be made. And then the game after that, then hits you with the plot twists and the punches and things like that. And so I feel like the stuff with Zach should have been laid all out to bear for this game. And the stuff about the other timelines, like we should have gained an understanding of what's going on there with the whispers and who the whispers are and what they're trying to do and how they're trying to do it, and how Sephiroth, um, makes that come together. Because like there was plenty of opportunity to do that. There's way too much time spent doing silly things in this game. And but like at the same time, I get it because it's still Final Fantasy VII. Just you're just following the framework and expanding on what's there. So it's tough for me to criticize it uh that much, because it does feel like this game is super faithful to Final Fantasy VII, and it goes above and beyond expanding on characters and locations and character development. all of that stuff. So it's very difficult for me to be like, if you're going to put changes, you need to go double down on it. Um, because honestly, is that really necessary? Maybe, maybe not. Um, that being said, I'm a gameplay first kind of person, and it's games like this that really make me glad that I am a gameplay first kind of person because um, it it just shines so much to experience the gameplay in this game. And if I valued story above everything else, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed this game very much. The timer stopped ticking. You can't see it, but very interesting. It was ticking before. And do I want a sequel? Absolutely. We gotta finish this. I I'm still thinking it's gonna be called Reunion. A remake, Rebirth, Reunion. Make it happen. But yeah, that's my thoughts. Let's see what we have here. Chapter select and hard difficulty are now available. Blah blah blah. Replay through chapter using your current stats, weapons, and materia. You can also adjust that. For real challenge, switch the chapter difficulty to hard. While playing on this setting, items cannot be used in rest spots. Only recover HP. Whoa. You know, what this doesn't say is you can visit changing booths, and here's a bunch of costumes that you could equip from all your characters. Play log, accessible via the system section of the main menu. The play log shows your achievements throughout the story and in battle. Gold Saucer Companion selection. When choosing Chapter 8 or 12 from chapter selection, you can pick any character with a close enough relationship to Cloud to accompany him. Gold Saucer, cool. Combat simulator updates meeting certain requirements, such as completing all proto relics, salvaging quests, will unlock unique combat challenges featuring Sephiroth and Zack. Cool. Chocobo Ranches now have changing booths, which you can use to alter your party members' outfits. Red 13 and Kate Sith's Loveless costumes are available for purchase at the Gold Saucer's exchange kiosk. But not Cloud. The Cloud one was so good. The Cloud one was so good. Come on, man. Uh, dude, let me. What are these? Whatchamacallit things? Talk about Pico will not be available until you wrinkle him. Oh, certain manuscripts can only be obtained in hard difficulty. Okay. Well, that was uh Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Take a super quick look at this. Weapon abilities learned 30 out of 49. Who else was like? I was seems interesting. Manuscripts like I don't even remember getting a single I don't even know what a manuscript is. Shinra Manor Combat Simulator challenges. Huh. Musclehead Coliseum challenges. Holy cow. Oh, and here's the relationships. Ooh. Ooh. Skywheel date. We win on the Skywheel date. Huh. Tifa hates me. Or Yuffie hates me. Oh man. out the title screen real quick. Bonuses. No. Options. No. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for me for today. I'll be back Monday, 7 a.m. Pacific, to start playing something. Glad this, came to a close on a Friday. Now I got to upload like 50 parts all this weekend. Wonder where playing through the game on easy would unlock hard? Probably. I played it on normal, so probably. But yeah, with that being said, see ya. I'ma see ya. Peace.